6 p.m. on March the 8th. This is the Board of Public Works meeting for the City of Franklin. We'll do a quick roll call. Chairman Webster, I'm here. Alderman Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Woznicki?
Here.
Commissioner Witt?
Here.
Commissioner Skaronski?
Here.
Commissioner Specht?
Here.
Commissioner Porter is not here tonight. City Engineer Morrow? Assistant City Engineer Beinlich? Also in attendance, Highway Superintendent Schlater? And Alderman Wilhelm is here tonight. Welcome. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We'll go ahead with the reading of the minutes to begin with. Now, on your table tonight is a little bit of an updated set of minutes today. I did talk with Debbie during the day. If you recall, last month I was not here in person as I was not feeling well. And so to start the meeting, I requested that Chuck Porter would act as the chairman pro tem for the meeting, and I was just so we were just clearing that up. So the revised minutes that were on your table or at your desk is what we're talking about today. Okay? So is there a motion about that? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So that's motion by Alderman Nelson, seconded by Commissioner Skaronski. To approve as presented here this evening. All of those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any negatives? That motion will pass. Minutes will pass as presented. Then we'll do a quick public comment period. If you are here specifically to speak about a topic here this evening, I will give you the opportunity to do so during that time. So,
This is the DMV.
are you here for?
I don't want to break your protocol.
No. Are you?
I'm a resident here, and public works to me means that would be signage, stop signs, stop lights.
Yes.
And that is exactly what I would like to comment on, an enhancement of Franklin now that we're out of Sleepy Hollow and we're a community that's thriving. The intersection of.
Okay. Sir, would you please come up and then give your name and address for the record? And you can pull the mask down while we're speaking.
My name is Brian Padel, 8113 South Legend Drive, right here in Forest Hill Village. Longtime resident. And I have just noticed now with the growth of Franklin, in particular, to make a long story short, but I want everybody to be able to visualize what I'm saying. So maybe I'll go and I'll elongate it a little bit so there's not any misconception about what I'm trying to relay to you. And it is going to be a no parking sign and a placement of a no parking sign. And it involves Drexel Avenue and our park right here and the library, and then the firehouse and that road, whatever road that is. I don't know if that's called Legend or if that's
Yes.
Legend Lions or Shootner's Road, whatever that road is. So we're all on the same page. Drexel Avenue,
Yes, sir.
the library, and the firehouse. Loomis Road is up the block. If you're going westbound up Drexel Avenue and you want to make a left-hand turn between the library and the firehouse, what I've been observing about 4 times myself experience and then other people in front of me, people pull off the road and they get on their cell phone and they park in between Drexel Avenue and the library entrance, but they just pull off the road at Drexel between the firehouse and the library. And what happens is, when you have the traffic on Loomis Road and somebody going eastbound on Drexel Avenue, if the light's about to change, and I'm not sure if the limit is 30 or 35 there, they're going to want to go and make that light. If you count how many seconds it takes for that car that's crossing the intersection to get to that entrance between the fire department and the library, going east on Drexel Avenue, it's probably 1001, 1002, 1003. So now if you got a westbound car that wants to turn in, and you got somebody that's on their cell phone because they pulled off the street, and now you get, and here's the kicker, if you got somebody that's exiting the parkway, or the park, or the library, that would be going, what would that be, like south or northeast, towards Drexel Avenue?
So westbound on Drexel.
No, eastbound.
No, on that parkway.
So maybe
Oh.
it would be helpful for you to just come up to the screen and point to the direction.
Yeah, yeah. So Drexel Avenue is across the top, Loomis is on the left, that's the library.
Okay, so you got a car coming up this way. You get a car that pulls off, and they're usually parking right about here. Okay? You got Loomis Road, and somebody wants to go fast and make sure that they get this light. To get from here to here, probably at 30 or 35 is probably about 3 or 4 seconds. The surprise is, this car parks here, this guy's coming up. I think there's a little bit of a hill here. You get somebody that wants to exit here. Nobody hugs the curb over here. They stay out here. So now you got this car here. This car's parked here. This car was going to turn here. This guy is speeding here because he wanted to make the light. Even if he's not speeding, he's doing the limit, right? This car here now has got to negotiate because this car parked so close. There is a street light pole here.
So let me,
You got the entrance. Oh, here it is. You got a street light pole here.
Mr. Pale,
Entrance there.
Mr. Pale, may I help you a little bit here?
Yes.
You are asking for the engineering department and the Board of Public Works to review no parking signs on Schleter Parkway on the west side of the road, maybe for the first 75 feet off of Drexel Avenue.
I would say put a no parking sign both for, because the fire department usually
Okay.
has to come in for
Sure,
a
sure.
street park. And I would say no parking here and here. The irony of this whole thing is because you got a street pole here, if that pole was about 10 feet up, you could just put it right.
Yeah,
on
we're
the-
not worried about that. We can handle that. So
That's what I would say.
here's the way this is going to work, okay? I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. This will go back to the engineering department, and they will do their review, and they will hopefully bring this back to the board here to talk about it and either act upon your suggestion or not. And we'll look at the warrants of putting in the no parking in that location. And I think we've got enough information to move forward with that. Are you acceptable with that?
Yeah, that's cool. It's
Okay.
just, I was a driver for 32 years professionally.
Yeah.
And I see this and I say, what was the old expression? It's an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And one day it will.
Okay.
Because of just the growth of the community. So like I say, parking there, you got ample parking here, you got parking over here by the parkway. So there's more than enough places to park if you want to go and take a call and get off of Drexel Avenue. Just move up a little bit farther, go into the parking lot. Or between here and here, you could park here. It's just too bad that that street pole is there, because if it was 10 feet the other
Well,
way.
we're not too worried about this. If we need to put in a pole to put up a light, we'll do that, okay?
Okay, thank you very much for letting me get that in.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and Glenn, I'll take it, I'll leave that in your capable hands.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. Then we will move on. I'm going to skip over to new business, item A, which is the ordinance to amend the municipal code, section 245-3B, stops required to add 24 locations in and around the subdivisions of Oaks Estates, Ryan Meadows, and Pleasant View Reserve. So let's talk first about the Pleasant View Reserve, as the alder lady is here. I don't know if that's the appropriate term. I hope I didn't do anything wrong.
I'm fine if
Yes, sir.
citizen comment period or whatever.
Are you okay if Alderwoman Wilhelm sits at the table here?
Sure, I am
More
certainly,
comfortable, better
absolutely.
light,
Yeah,
and-
no problem.
I think that this is really simple, and it's way overcomplicated. And if I could just explain the situation. So this is basically the council packet with a whole bunch of other stuff taken out. So all the way back in here is when we took it up, pretty late in the evening. So if you look at your packet where you have the signs that are put on there. Yeah.
The page numbers are still there.
So there's a legend on the bottom, and the legend says,
Page
the big
194.
stop signs. It says, the big stop signs are new, and the little stop signs are existing. So when I saw this, the first thing I saw was it's a four-way intersection with three new stop signs. So wouldn't even have caught my attention if it would have been a four-way intersection with four stop signs. And I thought, okay, well, we got to, like Glenn put in one on the cul-de-sac, because although the cul-de-sac isn't there yet, why come back for one stop sign? So the motion was to adopt the whole packet, and then I tried to make the motion to put a stop sign on that cul-de-sac. And then I realized, well, Marquette, we kind of put that in as a through street. So instead of having, I just said, just move one of this stop sign over to the cul-de-sac, and then just have Marquette be the through street all the way to the school. And everybody seemed to be okay with it. And then the problem came where I'm looking at new signs. I was never notified that any signs were ever installed. So Glenn was making comments about, we don't like to take out stop signs. And I'm like, well, good, then we won't put them in, and then we won't have to worry about it. And so apparently at some point last November, without my knowledge, and it said new, so it didn't say existing stop sign, because that's what the little ones are. I didn't know they were there, so I just said, well, if they're not there and we don't want to take them out, let's not put them in until we know we need them. So that's all it was. It was that simple. And so the motion was Alderman Wilhelm moved to amend the ordinance, blah, 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 to the municipal code for the stop signs required to add 24 locations in and around the new subdivisions, Ryan Meadows, Pleasant View, as amended. That was it. And then we just voted, and Alderman Nelson voted second, and became the council's motion, and that was it. And then the next morning, I got an email that went to school board members and everybody saying that the council had tabled it. And I'm like, well, no, we didn't table it. So it's like, I don't really care what you do there, but the biggest part that I see is there was no communication on the signs going in. So when I look at the traffic ordinance that is in place and I compare it to the guidelines that you use, the municipal code says signs shall be erected in such locations and manner as the chief of police shall determine will best affect the purposes of this chapter and give adequate warning to users of the street. Now, I think the users of the street could just be this ordinance you're adopting, or, it could be as simple as, letting their alderman know, so she gets a phone call that she can respond to it or something like that. But then, on your guidelines, well, this is not my first rodeo for stop sign stuff.
Yes, mine either.
Yeah. And so you have these reasons of not to put them in and all that. But then you have recommendation by the engineer and police department shall be considered in deciding upon placements of the signs. The police department didn't do it until after the council meeting. So, do what you want here, but I think the process needs to happen. Whereas if you're going to bring something in and request and say they're new signs, let the district alderman know that you put some in. And then there wouldn't have been any question
Well,
about
I believe that the signs, I believe the signs you're referring to are the ones on Marquette at 49th Street, going east, on Marquette Avenue at 49th Street, where I think some signs were put up in November at the request of the police chief. I believe that
Right.
that's what I understand.
Well-
That has not come before this board yet, and it's not certainly, so what has up there to this point is temporary from my perspective. However, once the sign goes up, it's harder than hell to take it down.
right.
So
and
this
that's
is a
what-
problem.
Right. So what
My
I
question, let me ask a question here. My question is, recognizing that Pleasant View is, 46 to 47th on Marquette, and you have children that do walk to school, probably from that neighborhood. If there is not a stop sign at 49th Street, how do the children get across the road?
Well, no, I didn't take the stop sign off of 49th Street.
Okay, I'm just making sure that, because you had talked about Marquette being a through street and should maybe not have stop signs there, and so I'm just asking the question.
No, that's
It'd
not-
be, I don't mean to, that's why I asked the question.
Right.
I want to make sure we are clear of what we're talking about. So I'm kind of, I was only concerned from what I heard in that the stop sign that I saw when I drove this at 49th Street on Marquette, to me made sense from
Oh,
Marquette.
absolutely.
But I do agree that on 50th, there shouldn't be a stop sign east-west. I think that if I have this right, I think that the picture that you're showing here, Glenn, maybe, is there a stop sign eastbound on Marquette also at 49th right now?
There,
Yes?
what it should say is, all of those big stop signs that say new, apparently should all be existing, because they've all been installed, so.
That's a date right there.
Yeah, I understand the argument.
It's not an argument.
No, I'm not saying it's an argument.
I just-
I understand the point that you're making. The question is, what is the proper procedure for if the police department sees the need for a sign to be put someplace and they say, we need to have this done.
Right.
They have that right. Historically, what we have done is stop signs has come to us. I think this guidelines that we put together, I don't know if that predates you, but it doesn't predate me.
No. I have, let me just say, I have no problem with your procedure
Yeah,
as far as this.
the point
But one
is-
thing that's missing is, I did talk to the police chief,
Mm-hmm.
and at first he didn't know anything about it, and then he found that the officer went out the next day or something.
Yeah.
But what happened was, apparently, they were requested for a temporary. Now, temporaries, like you said, they usually sandbag them and then they figure out where it goes. But at that point, they didn't go temporary, they went in and got installed. And that was last year. So at that point, it would have been, hey, we're putting up stop signs. Hey, we got a request. And then when this would have came, I would have known that these were not new or, I would have known the difference between new and
Yeah.
existing. So,
Glenn, let me ask you a question. Who made the request of the police department? Did that come from the engineering department, or where did that come from? The one in November that put this up to begin with.
As I understand, the police department, some officer, I'm not sure who, contacted our DPW and said, hey, this is a mess out here. Let's try some stop signs.
Okay.
They still work, so we put them on real post. And as, can I back up a minute?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So is the question, because I listened to the entire tape, I pretty much wrote down verbatim the way you mentioned it. So you're not opposed to the way the stop signs are out there posted now?
now that I know they've been in for a while and it would be a problem taking them out,
Okay.
no, I guess I would have preferred that this would have been a new issue. And
So the concern is not the signs, the concern is the procedure?
Well, the concern is a little bit of both. The concern is now that they're in, we can't even see if having the traffic goes through is better. Because my opinion on four-way stop signs, I don't know how your opinion's on four-way. Nobody knows what to do and it's just a confusion. So I get it, it's by a school, but I see so many people that don't understand what to do at a four-way stop, and I can just see everybody coming into school really fast with the buses, everybody, trying to drop their kids off, and they get to this four-way stop, and nobody knows what to do. You see it all the time. I mean, we saw that with the roundabout on 51st Street, so that's made a big difference where, people are, it may work just great. It may be the best thing for safety. It may be.
Yeah.
My concern is, should we have started off one way? Well, too late for that. Now that we aren't starting, keep it the way, but please add the extra sign, which you have an amendment to do on the 49th, so you're allowed to do it right away.
Look, you're talking about adding a sign here where there's no road, correct?
This will be for a new road, new signs. This is what it is, a new sign ordinance.
We could do that. That's never been done before. We always wait until after. So, for example, let's suppose this developer tomorrow goes bankrupt and never develops these. Then we have our code describing signs for a road that's not there. So we always wait until the road's actually constructed, the public starts using it. We put the signs up according to the plans, and then at a time comes when we accept or adopt the roads or people are using them, that's when we come to the common council and we say, okay, now let's put these in the code so that they're listed so a police officer can actually write a ticket on it.
That makes sense. I'm pretty sure it's going in. I mean, I've talked to the developer enough, and it's one little cul-de-sac.
This was somewhat unique because the city built the road.
And this pretty much all could have been, if that little thing, instead of saying new signs, said existing, that would have given me a clue that they were up. And the other thing would have been just notifying me. And that's it. Then there wouldn't have been a question at the council.
In terms of the item on the agenda for this evening.
You can do whatever. I have no say. So
if the council has approved of these stop signs, have they approved of all of these stop signs, or not? In other words, it wouldn't make sense for us to do it again.
No, they did not. So I reread it. I listened to it several times and tried to write down verbatim exactly what you said. The way I understood your motion, you wanted to take out the east and west signs. So you take out the sign here.
I only wanted to take them out on the paper. I didn't know they were in. That's a different story. I'm like, remove them off the paper.
If you watch the video, I did say they are already there multiple times also. So, but the way your motion read is to remove the westbound and remove the eastbound. So I guess I would like to ask, would you be willing to offer at the next meeting reconsideration? I'll write the council action to amend your...
Well, of course, because that's the only way it can go, because they're already installed. Unless you're going to back up, and the whole thing is, well, once they're in, we don't like to take them out. So this basically forces your hand. You only can do it one way.
Let me bring up one topic. Back in 1999, when this was generated, this stop sign placement warrant, that's what I'm going to call it because I don't know any other term for it. This board, with nobody here on that board except for me at that time, okay, actually talked about, is there a way that we can generate a similar thing for removing stop signs from city streets. We actually discussed it at that time. And we talked about it for maybe 4 to 5 months. And we've eventually tabled it because we couldn't logically say to ourselves, we can remove a stop sign once it's been put in place. The only argument that we could make is if you're doing some sort of a construction in which the traffic flow changes dramatically so that say an east-west road now becomes the secondary road to a north-south road. If you're doing something wild, like you change your traffic flow dramatically, and in that case, I think it's something special. Okay? Mm-hmm. So we actually did discuss the idea of how to set up a warrant for removing a sign that we felt wasn't necessary, but we eventually tabled it and said,
And we're not even at that point because
Yep.
I'm looking at a piece of paper
Yep.
and they're looking at in the ground.
Yeah.
And so those are two completely different concepts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said move this. The only
Yeah.
reason it even caught my attention is you had no stop sign on 49th Street. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have questioned.
Okay.
It's kind of way
Ms.
out.
Moore.
So I would suggest that we're already here talking about the issue. I don't think it's impossible to take out a stop sign. In fact, if you read your Board of Public Works action, I do. So if you were to decide that maybe it's not appropriate, then there are ways to put up a sign that says, basically we're removing a stop sign or something like that. So I guess while we're here, because we are going to reconsider it apparently at the next Common Council meeting, I guess I would like a confirmation if you think that's appropriate. If it's not, I think we could deal with how to remove a stop sign. But full disclosure, I really feel like it's very much needed at this intersection. But if there are some considerations that maybe I haven't thought of where you think it would be good to take it out, we can have that discussion.
I'm more concerned about crosswalks and stop signs.
So
At this particular location, I'm more concerned. The only concern I have for that stop sign being there is where else are kids going to cross to walk to school? That's my big number one about crossing Marquette to get to Pleasant View School if you're coming from that neighborhood to the west of 49th Street. That's my only one.
Are you saying if they're on 50th? Because there is a stop sign on 49th Street. That's not.
Yes.
Yeah, that's appropriate. That's
Yeah,
totally appropriate.
that's what I'm saying. At 49th Street, that stop sign, in my opinion, serves the stop sign on Marquette.
That
going
one
east.
is not in question.
That one's not in question.
Not in question at all. No.
That's just where they go. I think that this is a communication issue all around, and I
That's
think
what it
that
is,
we
yeah.
can get better.
All
Okay.
I need to know, if I would have known,
I
then it
think
would have been
that,
fine.
as Glenn says, we can confirm what has already been done in this meeting, and then call her good, I think. Ms. Specht.
Glenn, my understanding here is that an assessment has been done between you and the police department, and it's been warranted that this is needed to improve the safety in the area, and that is correct?
I firmly believe so, and the police chief has said so also.
After the
so
fact,
it's-
which would have been great if we had it first, and
Okay.
notification, so.
So,
But it is needed, and it's warranted. Maybe someone got ahead of putting it in, but isn't the safety of the children the most important part?
It is, and that's
So-
what I thought we were doing, so.
yep.
Perfect. So it sounds like we're meeting the goal of everyone's goals here, and
Just communication, that's the
Yep,
goal where you need to work
sounds-
on.
Exactly,
So-
and it sounds like it'd be best to keep this in place and not to look at reconsidering moving it, because
So, but the question is, Glenn, this is good for this location. You have 2 other locations that you're talking about here. Are those then, because there was 3 different locations. So
Yeah.
my question is, do we need to, on this board, make some sort of a?
Technically, the motion approved everything else except for Marquette at 49th East-West.
So technically, if we made a motion on this board to recommend to council to adopt the stop signs at Marquette,
That are
on Marquette
installed.
Street that are installed at
Then it's
49th
fine.
Street, both east and west, we would be covered.
Yes.
Okay.
But I wanted to make sure it reads already installed, because that's where the whole confusion came in.
Okay,
As
okay.
long as everybody knows that.
Commissioner Specht.
I'll make that motion.
What, you don't want to say it yourself?
You said it so eloquently.
It's a,
I'll second, but I have discussion.
go for it. Alderman Nelson.
So, Alderman Wilhelm, I understand, we touched base on this a little bit, so I guess my question to Mr. Morrow is, so we're clear on the process, that we have a consistent process in place, that so in the future, we're not going to have this type of, I don't want to call it a mishap, but whatever, miscommunication?
It would be a completely new process.
Okay.
Because as of now, someone comes in with the subdivision, through the review process, the site plan reviews and so forth, we specify where stop signs get installed. As the development occurs, like Ryan Meadows or Ryan Manor, whatever, Ryan whatever else is next, they just get put in as part of the development, and when all is said and done, we accept them.
Got it.
This was somewhat unique because, again, the city built the road, and the city just really doesn't build roads. This is really a unique situation. So we did go through the effort to remove some stop signs when we built the roundabout. That was somewhat unique. But,
Yeah, and a reason to remove stop signs,
Yeah,
like you
so-
just talked about.
But I can't think of any specific examples, but I know we've had them before where police will see a need for a stop sign could be just a temporary, maybe an event, or it could be a situation like here where they said, get one out here, and at the, I don't want to say earliest opportunity, we generally, we don't like to run to council every time we do something, but
Agreed, and nor do we want to be,
And three
That's why there's-
keystrokes, Alderman Nelson takes care of this. KW enter, my email pops up, we're putting in stop signs. Then when something like this comes, there's no question to me, I don't have to go drive out there and
Right.
say, are they in or not? And especially, the legend should have said existing stop signs, because that also would have, prevented that. So there were a couple things that sort of got missed on that aspect of this.
so from right now, for what we talked about prior, as far as this, are you good with this right now?
Yeah, I would have
You're-
been good with it.
I
had
know,
known
but right
what
now,
it
are
was.
you satisfied with where we're at with this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, I yield.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one thing, Alderman Nelson, though, I'd like to ask, because I thought it was a little bit, kind of only partially correct.
So is Alderwoman, you recognizing, sir?
Yes, go ahead, Alderwoman.
At the meeting, without advance notice to staff, Alderwoman Wilhelm made a motion. You're an alderman. I just call that to your attention.
Alderman Nelson.
I went by your rules, Glenn. I mess with you. I guess that's one of the things that we also, and I'm sorry that I did not bring that up. We do make a lot of motions. We do make motions without warnings all the time. So I don't know why that would be put in there, because, we make motions all the time without warning any staff, and I just know that we are all here for the betterment of the city, and we are all we all make our motions with the intent of bettering whatever situation we have and coming to finality. And I think that's the only way we can come to finality, is if we make a motion in a second, and we vote, and we put it to bed. And that's it.
I'll respond to that. So,
Mr. Morrow.
Yeah, I had some, we kind of threw my plan of action out the window. So what I was planning to do is start that evening. It was, and to be fair, it was 4.5 hours, 4 hours, 20 minutes actually into the meeting. I'm sure folks are just ready to go home, if you will. But myself included, I do know that others felt like the motion was tabled. And it wasn't until I was alerted by Alderwoman Wilhelm and went back and actually looked at tape, realized exactly what had happened. So based on the criticism I received the next day, based on the flyer that was, not the flyer, the draft that was sent to you, You'll notice what's in the packet is different, and it includes that. I try to go fully explain what happened at the meeting. Taking out stop sign is a big issue. I think it should be a lot of concern. I had no prior warning of it. I wanted you to know that exactly how that process went down and kind of explain the discussion at the meeting and how that went through. So that's
But
why.
I wasn't taking out stop signs because I didn't know they existed. That was the difference.
But
Right.
you know what, at this point, you know, we're all in the same family here. I think we're all on the same page on this.
I'm not trying to be critical.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
You're
so-
stating your case, and everybody's stating your case.
So-
And, you know, I guess I'll be the mediator at this point and just say, you know, we're all on the same page on this at this point. Let's
Well, there's a
be happy and
process
try
for
to move forward.
motions.
Well, there's a
that-
process to the motions, certainly on
Right.
all of our boards as we move forward. But
That wasn't
the-
my point. My point was when a council makes a motion, the clerk makes a draft. If you're unsure, if you didn't write that down and you're unsure, because what would have happened on the tape and at the meeting is if the motion was made. If the motion would have been changed, there would have been a rescind your motion, rescind your second.
Yes.
None of that took place, but yet he went away believing it was still tabled. So at that point, there should have been go to the clerk's office, get the draft, or listen to it before just moving ahead with sending an email off to everybody saying it was tabled and getting everybody,
yeah.
you know. So
Well,
that was a process problem
That
there.
may be true, you know,
Yeah.
but, I mean, to be honest, you know, I haven't been in a 4.5-hour meeting that goes till whatever, 10 o'clock or, you know.
It was really bad.
I have been at a couple of these here where we've had 50 people sitting in here on one of my meetings for one of these things and have taken our lumps. And, you know, after 2.5 hours, you don't know what you end up with sometimes. And so, you know, I can see that sometimes happens. But in this case, I think we're all comfortable. So let me read this just to clear this up for everybody. Because I kind of wrote it down to try to clarify what the motion was a little bit. And that is, the motion then is to recommend to council to update City Code Section 245-3 to reflect the stop signs currently installed on east and westbound Marquette Street at 49th Street. Avenue, thank you.
Could I make
Yes,
a suggestion? It might
absolutely.
be cleaner if we just reconsider. Recommend to common council to reconsider the last motion. That way, that would just.
And that's a little bit of a jab, and I think his is much friendlier.
Oh, I'm not intending jab.
I'm just saying, because it's a reconsider of something that I didn't have enough information on to
Well, I don't
make
know
it,
if,
so.
you bring up an interesting point, though.
So-
Let me make a question before you go on. Does this board have the right to ask the council to reconsider a motion that they have passed?
It's
It's a recommendation.
a reconsider.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm asking because I don't
Well, a
know.
reconsideration has to be someone who votes in the affirmative. So it would be easier, and it would be easier
Yes,
and
but
more.
this board can't,
That's what I'm
do
saying.
that.
So that's what
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think- I'm not-
It came back to
Does that
the
make sense?
board, it was reviewed, there was some information that could have been more helpful to make the decision, and that, because we're not redoing the whole ordinance, we're only
No.
doing those signs right there.
So,
And do you want to not include that one stop sign? Because I included the 49th Street cul-de-sac in my motion. So that's the decision, do you keep that or not, I don't know.
The 49th Street cul-de-sac, since the road is not in yet, I don't know if it would make sense to have it in our code at this point in time.
Okay.
I really don't believe I think that just creates problems in the future.
So we'll see what the process is when that one stop sign goes in.
I understand. Well, actually, when the development comes in, Glenn and I had a conversation about this morning. We actually discussed developments. Normally, this board doesn't get involved with developments and stop signs and so forth. That's done between the developer and the engineering department and so forth. And what we have discussed is maybe having a ongoing item as necessary for this board to review street plan development for stop signs specifically, but for you know, so that this board can get an eye on development of subdivisions within the community. You have to forgive me for those. My stuttering is medical. Okay. So,
I have the same problem. I
No,
didn't even
no.
notice it, actually.
but no,
so-
this is medical. That's only a month old. So, and
Well-
hopefully it will get better.
Hopefully, yes. Well, is there maybe an
Yes.
update to the map
So
that could be?
No, let's go here, then I'll come back.
So, okay, so here's what I think you asked me to do. So I'm already having to modify the ordinance from last time. So we're going to have two ordinances. So the ordinance from the last meeting added 2 stop signs for the cul-de-sacs and removed 2 stop signs for the Marquette east-west at 49th.
Okay.
So then we'll have to adopt that ordinance, or that's the way that ordinance is in. And then the new ordinance will be a second ordinance that will remove the 2 cul-de-sac signs that were added to last meeting.
I didn't have 2, I only had 1. I never even looked at 50th Street, never even discussed it.
Okay.
I just saw this one 4-way here, that's,
So it was only okay.
There was only one,
I'll have to
yeah.
watch the tape again. So, tell me about it. Okay, so you discussed the 49th at Marquette, 49th Court, I think is what it's called. So I'm going to remove that one because that was added last time, and then I'll add the 2 signs for Marquette east-west at 49th that were removed last time.
It's already in the ordinance, probably just leave it.
It's not in the ordinance.
The one coming out of cul-de-sac? Is that what you put in there? The one
No,
coming out of cul-de-sac?
that was added in the ordinance
right,
last
yeah,
time
this little dot right here,
So
yeah.
why
She-
don't you put it in?
because there's no road there.
I know, that's what I said.
Well,
He doesn't want to do it because he thinks they might not put the
We're
road in
using
it.
it as a construction.
we could.
I mean, there's enough trucks coming in and out of there.
Okay. Well, I'll leave that one in. Is that acceptable to whoever made the motion and second? Okay.
And then maybe just update this map and make those all existing.
Yeah.
Make those 3 existing on a new map so we know the difference. Because I thought this was the development plan date. I didn't know that was the installation date.
Just for the motion, I need to know,
So your motion, I believe, was to add, actually, you already added it. So I don't even have to mention the 49th Court.
Why don't you just do this? Why don't you just say motion to do what's here with adding one right there? That's all you have to do is
Well,
motion to do what's depicted
No.
and adding one on 49th.
So your motion at the last common council meeting added one on 49th Court.
Yeah.
So that one's there. It's not physically there, but
Right.
it's already in the code now.
Yeah.
And then you removed the 2 east-west on Marquette at 49th. So this new
Just
one
on Marquette, not on 49th. Just
at
just-
49th.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So this new one, since 49th Court is already there, in theory, then your motion should just be to add 2 stop signs to the code. They're already physically there, but to add 2 stop signs to the code, east-west Marquette at 49th. And I believe that's what I heard you say, and I believe that's what I heard seconded? Question mark? Okay.
and that is the motion that I read.
Okay.
Very non-convincing second, I'll give you that. It's gonna win along.
Okay, if everybody is fine with where we're at.
Are you fine, Alderman?
I would have been fine just knowing up front what happened, and I wouldn't have had a question.
Let's go ahead, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any negatives? Not any negatives, that motion will pass.
Very good. Glenn, will you work with me on the action sheet so it doesn't come out So it's friendly and we can make this happen. Okay, thank you.
You need your microphone.
Jays? Yep, okay, let me try it again. So we're on to item 4A, which is the purchase of the Runyon Equipment Company aerial bucket truck for $229,916. Kevin, I think that the important part of this conversation here is, can you kind of update us? It kind of spoke in here that this vehicle is not quite up to date to, or up to the specification that you wish to have. Is that an appropriate statement?
Somewhat. It's a
Can you-
smaller chassis than what
Can
we
you go ahead and
originally
fill
were
us in on what we're, so that we are,
First
as a
of all, you
board?
start off with what happened before.
Sure.
Sure.
We, 2 months ago, I believe it was in January, we approved a purchase of an aerial bucket truck that the deal fell through because we didn't get the approvals before the necessary date. So this has come back, and the vehicle that we were looking for at the time is not available now. So we are looking at a slightly smaller aerial truck, is my understanding. And so I was just kind of asking is, where does this truck meet or not meet what you would normally request? Because one of the things I noted in your discussion here, and I apologize, I probably won't find it really quick, is you mentioned the comment in here that the next vehicle will need to have extra things in it to make up for this one or something. You said something to that
Yeah,
effect.
then I apologize. That was probably poorly worded.
Yeah, and so that's where I'm coming from.
He's
is I'm
covered for me
trying to
already.
understand where we're at.
So-
Oh, thank you.
If I,
Go for
I
it.
came to the board asking for permission. Before I could get to council, they sold it because right now it's a first come, first served. So then we went out looking again. We just happened to come across with this Runyon dealership that they had, literally they had 10 chassis. Is it the same size chassis as we were going to get before? No, it's a little bit smaller, but it's still the same size aerial platform. As a matter of fact, it even has a few other things on it. It has a 2-foot extension on it, so it more than makes up for it in that way. Is it the same size chassis? No, it's not. But we feel confident that this will,
You should be.
Is
Speak into your
fine.
mic.
we feel fine that this chassis will suffice and do as we need.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, it's the only major thing. It's a smaller chassis. We feel confident that this is fine. The comment about in the future years, because we have 3 bucket trucks. We have 2 shorter ones and a bigger one, a 55 and a 35 and a 30, I believe. So down the road, when we replace the other ones, because they're all up in the next few years, we would have that option of looking at something else if we need it, but we don't feel we're going to. We feel this is going to work out just fine.
And,
Okay.
and to be clear, this went to Common Council because we needed the approval, so we've actually placed the order,
Yes.
got the PO.
We didn't-
So we are actually here to kind of let you know how that story
It's
went
more
out.
informational
More
at this
information,
point.
yes.
Okay, so for everybody, if you've seen this or not, we requested the new information of the vehicle inventory, so if you've printed that off, this is vehicle 721 that we are, now are we replacing vehicle 721? Which
Yes.
is the 2000 Sterling L7500? And so what will happen to that vehicle?
That will be sold.
That will be sold,
Yeah,
coming
at
back to
auction.
us in August.
Yeah, when-
So this will replace it on the sheet that we picked, that we received in, I think the date on this is January 28th. So of the version that we got.
Original one?
Yeah, the original one. Okay.
A summary of this year's purchases are included, copied in an email from myself to Peggy. So
Yes.
273 was what we had budgeted for dump truck. 725, we're still shopping for that. 275 was what we had budgeted for the aerial bucket truck to replace 721,
Okay.
and 440 is what we had budgeted for the grade all.
So the grade all, we dealt with that last month. And I'm assuming that, is that one replacing one that's on this list also, or is that new?
The Grado,
Yes.
it's replacing the one it's on.
And which one was that one so that I can mark it? What number was the previous truck? Do you know?
The Grado, I believe, is 708. Most positive it's 708.
I know, I'm asking weird questions. I'm just trying to keep myself up to date.
Yep. But that's a replacement.
Okay, so it's
'Cause
707.
these
It's-
items in here
Yep, no,
are
nope,
in the
that's fine.
equipment replacement fund.
Yep.
These aren't new.
It's actually 707, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you got me
Close.
close enough, I found it. Okay? No, I think it's important for us to keep track of what's coming and what's going, so we kind of keep up to it. I really think that's important, okay? So, we actually don't need a motion, this is more for informational purposes at this point, so we don't really need to make a motion to authorize anything, because it's a done deal,
Yeah,
correct?
we just felt we needed to come to you and
I
let you know
appreciate that.
that we switched and due to the
We're cool.
circumstances.
So when we do
Okay.
come to you with the dump truck, you'll know why we have extra money there.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And thanks for answering my questions. Then I guess our next normally scheduled meeting would be March the 12th. And other than that, shoot. Did I say April? I said March, didn't I? Because I typed it in as March. Okay, I'll correct that. April the 12th, thank you. And it is 6:51. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Skronsky, is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Woznicki, all of those in favor, aye? Aye. Any negatives? We are adjourned.